mean, that the
But
lawyer.
it goes from turning a blind eye to thieving to organised criminality, and then you start getting in the pockets of big major villains. So you've only got to listen to testimonies of these British gangsters and the connections they had with corrupt police. You get it with, Dave Courtney. There was that case where he was involved with that guy Austin Warnes in a corruptible relationship.
Yeah.
That guy Joey Pyle goes on about he was caught up. There was some corrupt relationship he had with an officer. Kenny Noy was caught up with the officer that was in charge of the investigation against him was in his pocket. And then these coppers then start crossing the line. So what they'll start doing is getting involved with women that might be linked to gangsters. They might start sniffing cocaine, and then once they do that, the blackmail starts. So one guy, what he was doing was for a firm of gangsters in Southeast London, they were paying him £2,000 for every PNC check he was doing. So he was using the police national computer to get in the information, and he was selling it on to this firm if they wanted to know about someone or whatever.
Yeah.
So this went on for a little while. He would meet up with them. Sorry about that.
1 moment, please.
He would pass the information on, and they would pass over an envelope with £2,000. So it went on for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, what happened was he went for the meet, and they passed over an envelope, and it had 50 pence in it. And he opened it and said, "What's that?" And they went, "That's your new wage from now on. You need to keep going." And what he did, he ended up handing himself in because he knew the game was over. He handed himself in, and he thought, "Well, I'm going to go down now. I might as well take them down with me." And then people start grassing, and these gangsters that say we don't grass, we don't violate that code. It's the biggest load of BS you've ever heard. Honest to God, all informants come from the criminal network, all of them. They don't come from decent people. They go at Crime Stoppers, and they get sod all for it. That gangsters make a living out of it.
Livy had a question that sadly, I think that the whole narrative of this live stream has answered itself. John was a policeman who was trying to get these guys caught, and he was ostracized, threatened, all of these. So just take us through exactly how the police work as a unit and how rare it is for someone to actually stand up against them, John, because it must be terrifying.
Yeah. Today's environment is different. When I did it was bad. So, for example, I went to a police station which become infamous for CID corruption. It's been any book to do with police corruption, they show this CID department. It was at Belgravia Police Station, and it was full of every single officer that was seriously involved in corruption was put in this one CID, and it was quite a unique environment. So one day, one of the sergeants, he'd messed up on a witness. He failed to get a witness to court, and there was a compromise then with the job got compromised, right? So that we all went out for a beer and a curry, and the DI, he was a monster of a man, big guy. He called this DS outside, said, "I need to have a word with you about what went on." He went, "Yeah." As he went out, he smashes him full out in the face there. Oh. The guy's cheekbone pierces his eye.
Nice.
Blinds him. He goes down on the floor. People rush out, and he said, "Leave that piece of S there. He can stay there. No one is to pick him up. No one's called the police." And the guy had to be pensioned off, and no one said a word, And it's, your life would be a misery. That's on a local level because they'd see you as a grass.
Yeah.
So I never had the compulsion or the moral fortitude to grass up anyone that was stealing drugs.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, John. Right?
It didn't really concern me.
You were activated when you realized that it wasn't one policeman that was corrupt in the child safety department. It was the entire child safety department.
Yeah. It went very high up because the kids. Yeah. So these kids are being used by people very established in our society, and this was never to go out because child abuse can become and has become
Wait,
politically influential.
sorry, John. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you. I just need to sort something out in the side chat. Spanner is the collective term for moderators because you all have spanners next to your name. She wasn't calling you a spanner. She was referring to the mods collectively by the collective terms, those with spanners in their names, because they have spanners. My American friend Shane is very confused because he knows it as a wrench. And now everyone thinks that someone's being called a spanner in a derogatory sense. So, no, it just means mods. Sorry, John.
That's
and
all
we're
right.
back in the room.
Right. So they needed to keep a lid on the child trafficking because there was people in the establishment that were having sex with these children, and we sort of explained why people have sex with children in our last thing we did about the Scottish judiciary.
Yeah.
And that sort of explains that. But it's got a huge blackmail value, and it's like a commodity that absolutely urinates all over drugs and guns and everything else. You know, the kids are the key commodity. So it was in this senior officer's, not just in his best interest, but it was in the establishment's best interest. And he made that clear to me. This would ruin us, past, present, the institution that is the Metropolitan Police, past, present, and future. This must not and never get out. So it was not only in his best interest, but it was also in his briefing as such a senior officer to do that. And these things occur every now and then, and it's what they call a contingency. And if
How
it does,
mad do you have to be to put anything ahead of that level of corruption when children are involved? I mean, how mad does someone like
yeah,
you
you know, this
is
is
think about basically what they're saying to you there, John, is think about the company. Think about the establishment, John. Think of the destruction you could do.
What he said, he said to me, look, I know you're good. And he really praised me. He said, "You're the second best officer I've got in the unit, and I've been told never ever lose you." He said, "You're just very good at what you do." And I wasn't being conceited. I just was naturally very very good at it. I sort of sussed the equation early on, and it's quite easy. You just work hard and you be nice, and you'll get everything you ever want in life. You know, but he said we never ever thought you'd dig this deep, right? And two kids actually died. It's very serious. So because I refused to back down, there was a campaign then to silence me because the threats were put to me: you lose your home, your job, your children, right? You'll lose your home, your job, your children. Now my home, because they stopped paying me, I didn't get paid for 3 years, right? My job, I started getting stitched up. So they went through 15 years of my emails. They found that I'd printed off in my when I was on nights because I couldn't afford anything because I was a single parent. I was skint all the time, and I wasn't taking money. I wasn't corrupted. All I was doing was running a tree surgery business with my oldest son, and I printed off an invoice on the computer, the works computer, one night. So they found this invoice. So they did me for theft. So they said. So I got done for theft of a sheet of A4 paper while I got arrested for it.
That seems like a really good use of the limited budget the police have, John. It seems like a great use of it.
I was told you can't put value on theft, so that's what they did. I told them if ever they tried to take my kids away, I'd burn down Scotland Yard.
I swear to God, I was just about to say you'll burn this whole damn place to the ground.
I did. I said I burn it to the ground. So they decided to have me for that. I threatened to stab a senior detective in the eye with a pen.
My G.
I said, if you give me that pen, I'll sign for my interview. And he was thinking about it. He went, okay. I said, yeah. And I said, so once I get that pen, I'll do it. He said, well, what else are you going to do? I said, I'm going to stick it straight in your eye.
Yeah. And this was before.
And the look on his face. So I was getting done for that. But one of the things they did for my friend was one of the best undercover officers I think this country's ever had. He was absolutely brilliant, this guy. He's written a book called Crossing the Line. So if you ever want a real gritty, visceral sort of read his. It's called Crossing the Line by Christian Plowman. This detective, he was brilliant. We worked together many years on a lot of drugs cases and things like that. And he was just awesome. I love the guy. He's still a good friend to this day. But like many undercover officers, he had a nervous breakdown. It was too
Oh,
much for him, so he
yeah.
left and he went to work abroad. And what he did was he contacted me just because he wanted a friend. The BBC were interviewing him about undercover work,
Okay.
so he just wanted to have a chat. Now he used to his legend, his altar, as it were, for